Hey, this is JC and welcome to Small Brick City. This is part 3 of building a MOC from start to finish. In this video, I'm going to show some refinements and improvements to the build, and I'm also going to do an extension of a small garden. I got great response for part 1 and part 2, so do check out the links in the description below. It really helps if you watch those videos first before you watch this third and final video of the series. One of the amendments I'm going to do is a structural change. Subscriber Manuel pointed this out. I'm not going to mention his last name because it's German and I will butcher it because I have no idea how to pronounce it. So sorry in advance, Manuel. But Manuel highlighted when I changed the tiling for the first floor, it did affect one part of the integrity of the build, and he was right. He pointed it out and I'm going to change that in this video. I'm also going to do a change to the artwork and add a clock to the second floor. And after that, we're going to explore how to extend the build to include a garden. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to amend is the structural change, and that is this right over here. When I change the jumper plate so that it won't stick to the upper floor when I removed it, I didn't secure these parts over here. As you can see, these bricks are joined. There's a this is a 1x6 brick over here. There's a 1x2 and a 1x1 and a 1x3. So these are all loose bricks, and ideally we should be using a towel piece to hold all these bricks together. If not, you can see that is actually splitting, which isn't good for the structural integrity of the build. So let's see what we can do here. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is to remove the jumper plate and then the towel piece. So I need to move this slightly, but I also have to worry about the underside here. So if this goes on like that, I ideally want this to be somewhere here. Maybe I could do this, but that's no good. So I actually have to move it even more. Maybe I have to going back to this 1x3, which gave me the problem in the first place. So let's try this out and experiment. If that's the case, I need to remove this as well. And what I need is a 1x8 probably, but let's put the jumper plate back here. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's a 1x6. So if I use a 1x6 plate, I'm probably back to the same issue as before, but let's have a look. At least now everything is secured down. So that's the 1x4. I need a 1x4 or 1x2 towel, which will cover this remaining corner. That goes there. And now we can put this back on top. And let's see if we remove it. Everything looks good. So that's the amendment I have done. So basically, I've just made it structurally better because now all these loose bricks are being held together by this towel, and I still have the jumper's plates in place. So that's good. All right, so now let's go to the next thing I'm going to do, and that's to change the art piece. So the art piece was a last minute thing I did when I was doing the part 2 video, but as you can see, it's a bit too big for this build. It's hitting this corner, so that's not so nice, and it also gets in the way of the person who is trying to wash some dishes at the sink. So I have to remove this, and that's very simple because it's just on a modified brick, and I need a smaller plate, and I've got a smaller plate here. This is a 3x3 plate. So now I have to figure out how to transfer the artwork or transfer some of the items over here. Well, what I'm definitely going to do is to take out these triangle pieces because I do like the triangle pieces. Then I'm going to use these 1x1 pieces to fill up the space. Again, I'm just doing this randomly just to fill up the space, and I'll need one more piece, and I believe I can use a 1x1 white piece. And that works. That's still a pretty nice abstract art piece. And now we can place it onto the wall, but we can center it and we can make it higher. Well, that's not really centered. Let's see if we can move it over to the right. Yeah, that looks much better. And as you can see, now we have it centered. It's also higher. A minifig won't bump his or her head too much when they wash the dishes, and that looks pretty good. And now on to the second change. For the second floor, I want to add a clock over here. In the second video, I mentioned I'll add some kind of artwork, or it'd be possible to add some kind of artwork. But since I've done that for the first floor, I will add a clock here. And that means removing this 1x2 brick and placing in a 1x1 modified brick as well as another 1x1 regular brick. So the first thing we have to do is to remove all these tile pieces and the plates. And anytime you do these kind of rebuilds, you want to disturb as few bricks as possible. So that's the 1x2 brick we're taking out. That's the 1x1 modified brick we're putting in, along with the regular 1x1 brick. Now we have to replace everything, and that includes the plates, which will be this one here and this one here, and then the towel pieces as well. So that's the jumper plate. This goes here, that goes there, and we finish it off here. So now we have the jumper plate in place. I do have a clock right over here, and that clock piece can be placed there, nice and centered. And that's a small but nice detail to add to the overall design of the room, as you can see. Well, it looks like we have done the changes we need, and we now can move on to what I want to do in this third video, and that is to add an extension garden. In this case, I have a plate which is 16 studs by 16 studs, and this will form the extension for my garden. Now here's the challenge. Notice the plates are of different color, because I wanted this to be a garden, so I chose a green base plate. However, there's a need to seamlessly do some kind of transition so that it's not so stark. You see this line between the gray plate and the green plate? We need to use different techniques and find a way to blend everything seamlessly together so that seems like one single build. So let's do that right now. So what I've planned to connect the pieces together is to build some kind of a, I won't call it even a sidewalk, but definitely just some kind of concrete strip that extends from the front of the house all the way to the garden. And I'm going to extend this walkway or this footpath piece over here so that it's longer. So those are connection points. But that means I am going to remove all these loose green studs, which is supposed to look like random grass patches which are growing. But I'll remove this for now. I'll figure out where I'm going to put them later on. But basically I'm going to use tiles. And for this piece here, we'll remove this tile, and I'm going to change it to a 2x4 tile. And the reason is to give a connection, not just a physical connection so it holds it together, but it also looks like you can walk from the inside of the house to the garden. So it's kind of a little sidewalk. Now, going back to the concept of the build, this is supposed to be a bachelor's pad, or it's a corporate executive's little house. That's why it's pretty small. So what I've thought to be put in the garden is some kind of a pool. I didn't want to just go with a regular pool, but I was thinking of a jacuzzi or a hot tub, a very yuppie thing to have. So I'm going to have that there. I do want to build some kind of a retaining wall for privacy, and I also would probably have a barbecue pit. And then the rest of the space will keep open to give it some breathing room and add some footpaths and then some greenery around just to fill up the space. So let's start off with the retaining wall and the jacuzzi or the hot tub. For the platform of the hot tub, I'm going to be using this plate. So this will give me an idea of the size that's going to take, and I'm going to have it in the corner right over here, so it'll be positioned in the corner. I'm going to have an entrance into the garden somewhere here, so I'll build the retaining wall somewhere here. But let's move back a bit so it's not right at the edge, but maybe one step in. And I'm going to match the design of the house. So the base of the house is this medium orange flesh colored masonry brick, and then it's white. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So let's start off here and see how it goes. And that works out pretty well. Oh, that's a 9. That's a nice lucky numbers in some culture. So that's going to be the base of my jacuzzi. So it's going to be kind of a step up, a bit raised. And we have this. Okay, if you remembered, I mentioned that I want to put a retaining wall, but I also want to put some kind of effect, some kind of wall climber, wall creeper. So let me switch this out for a modified brick, and I'll just replace that there. Now, I don't have the exact color of this medium orange in this modified brick, so I have to use a darker orange, but that's fine. I'll just take it. It looks like a brick that has been replaced. Okay, so I'm going to put this on top. Now, because I have added a layer of grey tile or grey plate, I need to level up this area as well. So I'm going to take some grey plates and I'm going to add them to it. Now, one of the principles I talked about is always using plates to hold on to joints, and I do want to do that. So I'm not going to, I could use, you see, I could use this, but if I do that, these are just going to be one section over here. So I do not want to do that, even though I can, obviously, with the plates I have. So the first thing I'm going to do is use one of these corner plates, and that holds the corner together. And then I can take this 1x6, hold it together. Here I'm left with a 5 stud space, so I have to break it up with a 2 and a 3. So let's do the 2 over here and the 3 plate over here. So at least this gives some security and structural integrity to the build. Now I'm going to add my white, and I'm going to use various bricks, and I'm just going to work it out as I go along. One thing I did think about is the use of these diagonal modified bricks, and I'm going to place it somewhere here. So the jacuzzi will be kind of, you know, it's square, but it's got an indent over here so that people can step up over here and into the jacuzzi. It also breaks up the squareness of the shape of the overall look of the build. So at this point, I know I want my retaining wall only about this high. I do not want it so high. I want this to look a bit inviting, but I do want the wall at the jacuzzi or hot tub to be taller. So it's going to be taller this side. Now I could simply build a wall like this, but then you get a very sharp right angle look here, which I don't particularly want. So what I'm going to use a curved brick like this, and these are 1x1 pieces. Just hold it in place, and I will do that. So this gives a nice angle, a soft angle up. So if I were to build this into place, it should look quite nice because of the way it joins. So let's just continue building this up and see how it goes. Okay, this is what I have so far. Notice I added a modified brick here, and the reason is I want to put a light, and the light will be an identical version of this one. So the symmetry between the two builds, or at least there's some common feature, so you can tell it's still part of the same house and the same architecture overall. So this is what I've come up with so far, and let's get a minifig Here's our yuppie minifig. He's all ready to use his jacuzzi. Now if he were to get in here, that's pretty good. That height is pretty good. In fact, it might even be too high. So let's bring out one layer, because I want to do a roof, but I don't just want to use a plate. I do want something transparent so that it kind of reflects the architecture of the modern house, but also because then you want sunlight to come in and down onto the tub, which is nice. So alright, let's just keep to this height here so it's nice and impressive and tall, but we're going to add these modified bricks on top like that. And over here I'm going to tile this, and the reason I'm going to do that is so that when I use a snot technique to place on the doors, it will actually rest on this tile, and you'll understand in just a bit. Alright, so there's no way I can put anything here. As you can see, it's too close. So I think I need to put a layer of plate here. So I need some white plates, 1 by something plates, that allows me to lock this here as well. And then I'll use the white towel and just need a 1 by 1 towel just to cover that remaining corner right there. So if I were to take the modified bricks like that, there's room for something to rest on it. And I'm going to use these transparent glass door pieces, or white frames with transparent pieces, window pieces. And I'm using a snot technique, which is stud snot on top. And I'm doing that. So that's the canopy for the jacuzzi. Very modern and looks very nice. We'll cover the front here with a 1 by 8 white towel, and that looks pretty good. And just for symmetry, once again, you notice the roof here is light grey tile, so I'm going to cover this with a light grey tile, and that's a 1 by 8, and it also serves the function of locking the bricks together. So that looks pretty good. What I do want to do is to work on the inside here. I do want to tile the inside of the jacuzzi, so let's remove this for now, and let's tile it with white. One of the things I know I do want inside is probably some kind of a drainage, so I'll need these grill pieces, need 2 of them, and I'll just place them in each corner, just there. And after that, I'm going to tile the rest of the area. So I've tiled the interior of the sauna, or the jacuzzi here, so that looks right. And now to finish up the rest of the build, I'm going to finish this part here. So let's make this nice and tiled. And on here, you know what I'm going to do? I like to add some detail. I could just, of course, finish it with a 1 by 4 tile, but let's make things more interesting. I'm going to use a 1 by 2 towel that holds these 2 parts together, and I'm going to use a transparent 1 by 2 plate, and this is going to be a holder for some champagne glasses, because remember, this is a single corporate executive who knows how to enjoy the high life. So that's what I have over here. For these 2 exposed studs, let's put some decorations. We should have a button or a switch for the jacuzzi, and we'll need a towel piece, and that's just a gauge so we know the temperature of the hot tub. And over here we should towel this as well, and that's where these triangle towel pieces come in very useful. So basically a minifig can step up and into the jacuzzi right there. For this is the light, so I have to replicate the light that I've already built over here. So that uses a trans yellow round brick, a tap element, and a black round stud. And this pops into the front of the 1 by 1 modified brick. And there we get some design symmetry with these elements. Right, for over here, again, I'll need to tile this up. I'm going to tile this with the gray, light gray tile, once again, to replicate the roof over here. But I do want to add more lights. I don't want to add round lights. We want to keep to this, the symmetry of this build. So I'm going to use 1x2 trans yellow plates and black plates as well. So I'm going to create a light by sandwiching the trans yellow plate between a tile and a plate. This looks like that. So that's one, and we have two over here. So if I place this on top, that looks pretty modern. Maybe I'll offset this by 1. Does that look better? Well, another reason I want to do the offset is because of this joint here. I could do this, no doubt, but I think this doesn't harm the design. It holds it better, and I get a nice break in the angle over here. So that's what I'm going to do. I will need to get tiles to cover all this up. So let's do this with the 1x2. And over here we just need a 1x6. And a 1x1 over here. So that's coming along quite well. Let's replace this and see how that looks. That's pretty decent, very clean look, and I guess we'll get a better idea when we put everything together. So this goes back here. So that's a pathway into the garden, and here we have the pathway from the side door. So let's figure out what we can do over here. I think to break up the the shapes again, I'm always talking about using circles when you can to break up the square or rectangular patterns. So I'm going to use these round tiles as kind of the footpaths. So that will go there. Maybe we can do one here. So again, I'm also doing it in kind of a staggered random order, so it doesn't look too straight. Again, just to break up that whole monotony of straight lines. Let's put this here. That looks pretty good. And we need something to go here as well. I mentioned a barbecue pit, which I'm going to put over here. So let's figure that out in just a bit as well. I think we can do one more round plate here. And that fits to the barbecue pit over here. So now we can kind of see this entranceway. Maybe we don't even need this particular tile. So that works pretty well. We can put a plate here. Maybe this can go here. So that's the start of the footpath. And then you can walk here, and then from here you can get up here. So let's fill in some of the spaces. I am going to use more of these 1x2 gray tiles. Let's place one here, so it's a nice step to get up. In fact, you know what? I think I do need a plate just to raise it high enough to bring up. So let's use a 1x2 plate to put it underneath the tile and place the tile here. So now this looks like a more logical step to go up. Alright, so let's talk about the barbecue pit now. So I'm going to build a very simple pit. This is like an outdoor pit, not a fancy pit. I did teach a very big and fancy barbecue pit in a previous video tutorial. You can see the link in the top of the screen. But I'm not going to do such a big fancy one now. The main reason is this is a very small tiny house. You do not want the barbecue pit to overwhelm the house. I mean, in relation to the house, you shouldn't have such a big pit. It will make look oversized, or it will make the house look extremely small. So I'll do a small pit, a very simple pit, and I'm going to use a round brick. and I'm going to place these trans orange and trans red studs on top. So this looks like kind of the charcoal. Let's get these separated, and I'll just put them in opposite directions of each other so that way get a bit of a charcoal look. And I'll take a 2x4 black plate, place it over it, and I'm going to cover the plate with these 1x2 silver tiles. So this makes it look like a large barbecue pit. Nothing fancy, not an electric grill or anything, just a charcoal grill or a charcoal barbecue pit. And I think that should go on some kind of a base plate, so I'll use a 2x2 plate. And that would go probably somewhere here. Okay, if I do this, I can have it touch the wall if I want, or I can pull it back. If I do pull it back, I will need to move this back, and then that will be too close. So tell you what, just for convenience, I'm going to keep this here, right against the wall. I think that's fine as well. But in time to come, I guess we have to change that brick to black since there'll be so much soot. But let's put it against the wall, and that means I can fill the space next to it with some gray tiles. And the reason is I want the barbecue pit to be built on concrete and not just on the grass, because it'll burn the grass. So that's what we have for the barbecue pit. Okay, it's coming together. This area here should be covered. I could build a fence. I didn't want to build a wall because everything will look too walled up. So I'm just going to use some natural products. Natural plants made of plastic. Yes, these are still the old plant parts made of plastic, not the new plants. So I'm just going to use 2 trees, and these will act as natural barriers or barricades. Maybe we can just move this one here. That looks probably better for spacing. All right, let's talk about the front here. So the front should be, filled up, I think, with some shrubs, something like that. So I'm going to replicate the look of these shrubs over here to the front. And I've got a variety of parts. So let's just randomly put some plant parts. Right, so that works. A bit of greenery for the front. Okay, so now we still have to figure out, I guess, how to fill up this space. So the question is, do I want to fill up space over here with some tiles? Or should we leave it green? I'm not sure at this point of time, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for some plates, green plates, and see if I have any more green plates, and I'm just going to place them over. This holds the 2 plates together, but also kind of blends the grass from one plate to the other. I've got a couple of plates over here, some pretty big, some smaller. Not sure if something like that works. That definitely puts everything together, kind of blends everything together. The problem with that, of course, it goes over these tiles, but maybe we could move the tiles a bit. Let's see how that works. Now, as mentioned, again, I'm stressing the reason why I'm partial to using this plate is because it's curved, so it adds some nice texture to the build. At the same time, it kind of mirrors this curve over here, so that's pretty nice. I think that works pretty well. And let's add in another plate over here. And if I replace the tile here, that's fine. I think that works. And then I could place a tile here. And maybe now I can move this tile back. So let's move that somewhere here. I think that kind of works. So if I do that, this goes here. I know this doesn't really make for that interesting a video, right? Because I'm just moving plates and towels, but I hope just to show the process. It's not so smooth running. You do have to make adjustments from time to time. And you know what, since I have done that, I think I'm going to move the barbecue pit in front so it doesn't hit the wall. It's a bit close for comfort, but I think it's fine. So we have some kind of a pathway from the house, a little random footpath all the way, a bit of texture over here. Let's kind of blend the texture using these round studs. And the good thing about using these round studs, they break up the layers of the plates just so that it doesn't look so straight. So you're trying to camouflage those straight edges just a bit. That looks better, kind of blends everything together. And I think we're almost there. We have to put back the plants that have been disrupted during the build. What do you think? Do you think that this needs a bit of improvement? I think this needs a bit of improvement. It looks neither here nor there. So I think what I'm going to do is, let's see if we can tile the entire area and see how that goes. If we do that, I think that probably looks a bit better. And maybe then I won't put a plant here. So it looks more like if you want to come to the garden, yeah, of course you could step over here, or you could walk here and then walk down this path, since this does look like a path. In that sense, then maybe we could put a flower here, so you know you aren't really supposed to walk across this path. Yeah, I think that works. Now let's add a bit more texture. I've got some plant parts here like that. So maybe instead of this flower, this part can be used this way. That feels more like a deterrent from climbing. Let's see how it looks like if we make it taller. Yeah, that's a bit of privacy as well. I think it acts like a bit like a wall, so that's not too bad. So now this almost forces you to walk here to get to the garden, to get to the barbecue or the sauna, if you come from the main door. If not, you'd come from the side door and you just walk directly there. I think we're almost there. Remember, I talked about the stud, and the reason is I wanted to put a wall crawler. So let's do that now. I've got these grass pieces here, so let's put one in first. And I'm always using this plant stem part to hold it in place into the modified brick. And if I want to, I can actually add one more. I think that'll be pretty good. I can add one more and I'll hold that together with another stem part so that the two plant pieces are held together. And it looks like kind of a crawler, a floating crawler, but I think that's fine. And that adds a bit of dimension to the build. I guess I could do it for two sides, but I think this is fine just to get that character of the build. Let's have a better look at the build and put back some of the plants. And here we have the completed modern house with extension of the jacuzzi and barbecue pit and garden. What do you think? I like how the transition has been made from the grey base plate to the green base plate. Remember, we started with two completely different plates, but I think using the techniques of the tiles, the plates, and the flower studs, the impression of a seamless transition between the two plates actually worked very well. It now looks like a one seamless unit or piece or property. Don't you think so? I think it works really well. The garden texture really helps add to the fact that this is one piece. It feels very connected. And this build looks great from all sides, in my opinion. From the front, even the side, because of this wall creeper. The back is very simple, but looks very polished and finished nevertheless. The side is great because of the windows you can see inside the house, especially the toilet. And the front, of course, I think is pretty inviting. And I just like the flow from the main door into the house as well as to the side to get to the garden. So what do you think of this build? Let me know your thoughts. Do you think that the standalone building was better, or do you think it's much better with this extension? I really like to know your opinion. When I first started this project, I only thought of building just one building because I was thinking of doing a two-part video series, and I thought it'd be interesting to do a full build from start to finish. But response to the videos have been really good, and since I wanted to make some changes, I thought I would then add an extension, because this then allows me to show how I would approach such a project, since this is not something I considered right from the start. So it is possible to add to your existing MOCs or builds, and you can extend it to make it look bigger, but yet seem like an intended single build or set. Well, thanks for watching. It's been a pleasure having you. If you have any suggestions or feedback, please leave them in the comments. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. Oh, one more very important thing. To really complete the build, we need our Mr. Yuppie guy to be relaxing in his sauna, but he can't be alone, so we have his nice female friend with him, and they will be relaxing right there, sipping champagne. Well, thanks so much for watching again. We'll leave them in peace. Talk to you soon.